Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 15, part 2. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribrajikacharya Sutara Sata Sri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Siva Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai Navadip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 15, part 2. Namam duskriti numuda prapadyante naradamaha mayaya parithagyana masuram bhavamashrita. Namam duskriti numuda prapadyante naradamaha mayaya parithagyana asuram bhavamashrita. Namam duskriti numuda prapadyante naradamaha mayaya paritaya jnana asuram bhavamashrita. Namam duskriti numuda prapadyante naradamaha mayaya paritaya jnana asuram bhavamashrita. Not mam unto me, duskriti, miscreants, Muda, foolish. Prapadyante, surrender. Naradamaha, lowest among mankind. Mayaya, by the illusory energy. Aparita, stolen by illusion. Jnanaha, knowledge. Asuram, demoniac. Bhavam, nature. Ashrita, accepting. Translation and purport of Srila Prabhupada. Those miscreants who were grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Purport part 2. So we continue the very long purport of Srila Prabhupada. We did the first part on Wednesday, and this is the second part. In the Gita, it is clearly mentioned that the material energy works fully under the direction of the Supreme Lord. It has no independent authority. It works as the shadow moves in accordance with the movement of the object. But still, material energy is very powerful, and the atheist, due to his godless temperament, cannot know how it works, nor can he know the plan of the Supreme Lord. Under illusion and the modes of passion and ignorance, all his plans are baffled, as in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, whose plans were smashed to dust, although they were both materially learned as scientists, philosophers, administrators, and educators. These Duskritina, or miscreants, are of 4 different patterns, as outlined below. 1. The Mudas, or those who are grossly foolish, like hard-working beasts of burden. They want to enjoy the fruits of the labor by themselves, and they do not want to part with them for the Supreme Lord. The typical example of the beast of burden is the ass. This humble beast is made to work very hard by his master. The ass does not really know for whom he works so hard day and night. He remains satisfied by filling his stomach with a bundle of grass, sleeping a while under fear of being beaten by his master, and satisfying his sex appetite at the risk of being repeatedly kicked by the opposite party. Excuse me. The ass sings poetry and philosophy sometimes, but this braying only disturbs others. This is the position of the foolish fruited worker, who does not know for whom he should work. He does not know that karma, action, is meant for yajna, or sacrifice. Most often, those who work very hard day and night to clear the burden of self-created duties say that they have no time to hear of the immortality of the living being. To such mudas, material gains which are destructible are life's all in all, despite the fact that the mudas enjoy only a very small fraction of the fruit of their labor. Sometimes they spend sleepless days and nights for fruitive gain, and although they may have ulcers or indigestion, they are satisfied with practically no food. They are simply absorbed in working hard day and night for the benefit of illusory masters. Ignorant of the real master, the foolish workers waste their valuable time serving mammon. Unfortunately, they never surrender to the Supreme Master of all masters, nor do they take time to hear of him from the proper sources. The swine who eat the soil do not care to accept sweetmeats made of sugar and ghee. Similarly, the foolish worker will untiringly continue to hear of the sense-enjoyable tidings of the flickering mundane force that moves the material world. Namam duskritino muda prapadyante narada maha mayaya parita jnana asuram bhavam asrita. So right now we are living in a world filled 90% with mudas. People who think that the business of life is to enjoy the senses to an unlimited degree. Everywhere you look, every advertisement, every program, every movie, every propaganda, it is simply aimed at consuming more and more and more. But that is not the purpose of life. Why not? Because even if you are given facilities to enjoy your senses to your ultimate pleasure, ultimately it comes to an end. Krishna says, Dukalayam ashashvatam. The material world is full of misery and it is temporary. Mamupetya punarjama, Krishna says, one who reaches me, mamupetya, one who achieves me, punarjama, dukalayam ashashvatam, in this material world, the repeated birth, napnuvanti, does not achieve. He becomes a Mahatma, a great soul. To Mahapartha, he's explaining to Arjuna that the goal of life is to achieve our eternal relationship with Krishna. To understand our relationship with God requires to understand our spiritual identity. We are spirit souls, Sat Chit Anand. We are the eternal servants of God. We are conditioned by this body, just like the animals are conditioned by their body. If you meet a dog, you will bark. If a dog meets a cat, you will fight. A cow will move. She will eat grass. Animals are conditioned by their body. But human beings have a choice. They do not have to be conditioned by their body because they have ears to hear. And how do we hear? We hear who is our Supreme Father. How to find out who is the Supreme Father? It's the same as finding out who is our material father. You cannot find out your material father by tarka. Tarko apratishtat shutayo vibhinya. That you cannot understand your spiritual nature by argument any more than you can figure out who is your father by argument. The only person who can tell you exactly who is your father is your mother. She knows. Sometimes the wives may not be faithful to their husband and may be impregnated by another person. And the baby is born in the family thinking that this is my father, but the mother knows that actually that child is the father of that child is not my husband, it's a third person. So you cannot find out who is your father by argument or by any material endeavor. You have to go to the authority, the mother. So similarly, tarko pratishtat, shutayo vibhinna, that you cannot understand the nature of your Supreme Father by argument or even by studying the Vedas, although they are the source. Vedas are the mother, and by studying the Vedas we can understand who is the Father. But we can see that even in India, which is a country based on Vedic culture, and the history of India as narrated in the Mahabharata, Ramayana, the Itihasas, the Puranas, it relates the story of Vedic culture going back millions and millions of years. But even in that history, the definite understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Father is in a minority. Lord Chaitanya said that out of many, many karmis, or people who are simply engaged in satisfying the material body like the mudas explained in this verse by Krishna. Mahaprabhu said, out of many, many karmis, one who is detached from karma and interested in knowledge is very, very rare. And out of many, many jnanis, or those who are attracted and wedded to knowledge, there is maybe one who is liberated, a mukta. And out of many, many liberated persons who understand they are spirit souls and they are part and parcel of the Supreme, hardly one is a Krishna Bhakta. So becoming a devotee of Krishna is not so simple, even in the Vedas. In fact, there is a story in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam of Bharat Maharaj. This Bharat Maharaj was the eldest son of I forget the name, to see, old age, short-term memory. So Bharat Maharaj became detached from his kingdom, and he went to the forest to practice meditation, yoga. In those days, in Satya Yuga, 90% of the population knew how to practice yoga. And the purpose of the practice was to connect with the Supreme Soul, with Lord Krishna within the heart, and develop that relationship. So, practicing yoga in the forest, Bharat Maharaj became almost perfect. But at the last moment, he became attached to a small deer. And this attachment caused him to take a birth as a deer. But because of having practiced devotional service almost to the point of perfection, having practiced yoga almost to the perfection point, he didn't forget his previous practice, even within the body of a deer. Therefore, as a deer, he spent his life close to the ashrams of great sages in the forest. And then he took a next birth as a human being in the house of a Brahmana. And his name was Jad Bharat. Jad Bharat because when he took his birth as a Brahmana and remembered his previous lives, he realized that this is my chance to escape from this material entanglement, but not becoming engaged in material activities. Therefore, he refused to cooperate with the material world in any way. His father tried to teach him, and he would not learn. He would do the opposite of what he was taught. His brothers, they rejected him. His family rejected him. In fact, he was considered so useless that they engaged him as a scarecrow. In other words, he would sit in the fields of grains and vegetables, and he would clap his hands to keep the birds away from eating the seeds and eating the plants. And while he was busy in this, some dacoits saw him and said, "Oh, this is a foolish person, idiot. Let's take him and offer him as a human sacrifice to Bhadrakali." There were sects like this in India. In fact, in Srimad Bhagavatam, it explains that Krishna's uncle, Kamsa, whom Krishna killed, Kamsa belonged to such a group who were offering human sacrifices to Kali. So they took Jad Bharat and they were going to kill him in front of Bhadrakali, and Kali, she understood that this is no idiot, this is a great devotee, he's just acting the part of an idiot. So she came out of the deity form with a machete, with a sword, and she chopped off the head of all the dacoits. And Jad Bharat left, and he continued walking village from village. And he came across a king who was being carried in a palanquin. Unfortunately, one of the palanquin carriers became ill, and he had to be replaced. So they found this Jad Bharat on the side of the road. They said he was they saw that he was very strong and stout. They said, "Oh, come on, you can become one of the palanquin carriers for the king." So he was he was inducted. He was conscripted to become a palanquin carrier. But he wasn't carrying the palanquin very well. He was stumbling and walking and stopping. He wasn't in the right rhythm. And so the palanquin kept on bouncing up and down. So the king became angry and he started chastising the palanquin carriers. And they said, "My dear Majesty, it's not our fault. It's this new man. He's stopping and he's skipping and he's going and he's stopping and he's causing the disturbance." So the king, his name was Rahugana, he began to chastise Jat Bharat. He said, "What are you doing, you rascal? You're supposed to carry me. Instead, you're bouncing up and down and you're stopping and going." And in this way, he was chastising Jat Bharat, not realizing that the reason that Jat Bharat was not walking in step was because he was looking 1 meter ahead on the ground, and if there's any ants were there, he would skip. He would not step on the ants. This is the nature of a devotee. Even an ant is being respected by him. He will not hurt an ant, what to speak of anybody else. So there was a discussion. So in the middle of the chastisement, Jat Bharat took pity on the king, and he said, "My dear king, you're chastising me, thinking that I'm your palanquin carrier, thinking that you're the king who has the right to sit up on the palanquin being carried by the palanquin carrier. But actually, you're a spirit soul, the same as I am. There is no difference. We are both eternal, Satchitananda beings. But by material conditioning, you're thinking you're a king, and you're thinking that I'm a palanquin carrier. But actually, I'm none of these things. I'm an eternal servant of God." So in this way, the king realized that he had made an offense. So he bowed down to Jat Bharat and he begged him for forgiveness and he begged for instruction. When we meet a saintly person, we ask for instructions how to progress in spiritual life. And Jat Bharat explained to the king asked him, how do I achieve perfection? How do I progress? What is a method by which I can achieve knowledge and reawaken my eternal relationship with God? Because if I read the Veda, there are many, many instructions, many, many recommendations, many, many sacrifices. So Jat Bharat, he explained, "Rahugana ita, my dear king, na yati na chet jaya," says, you cannot become perfect by doing your material duties. Nor can you become perfect by giving up your material duty and becoming a sannyasi, becoming a renounced person. Na chandasa, you cannot become perfect simply by studying in the Vedas. Chanda means rhythm, because the Vedic knowledge is presented in shlokas which have a rhythm. So chandasa, na chandasa, by studying the Vedas, you cannot achieve perfection. Naiva jalagni surya, nor by performing severe austerities in the winter in the cold water or in the summer surrounded by fire. Yogis, they do that. They used to perform great austerities. So what is it? He says you cannot become perfect bina, without mahat padaraja abhikshakam, without taking on your head abhikshakam, taking on your head the dust of the lotus feet of a great devotee. Mahat. Mahajana Jena Katasa Hanta, we discussed last week. Swayambur Narada Shambhu, Kumara Kapilo Manu, Pralado Janaka Bhishma, Bali Vyasaki Vayam. These 12 Mahajans are able to give you Krishna because they have Krishna in their heart. We also have experience that in the Western countries, nobody knew who or what Krishna was. There was no connection with Krishna. But because Srila Prabhupada came and he brought Krishna within his heart, what Prabhupada brought was Krishna. And he was able to give him to us because he had him. So the whole purpose of Vedic progress, in understanding first of all that I am the spirit soul, in understanding that I have a connection with God, To re-establish that connection, we pray to God to send us one of His pure devotees to bless us. Krishna belongs to His devotees. Krishna is not independent. He belongs to the Brajbasis, to the devotees in Vrindavan. It belongs to the devotees in Dwarka, the Yadus. In his form of Vishnu, he belongs to the great devotees in Vaikuntha. So one of these great devotees, or one of their descendants, one of their representatives, who is actually a genuine carrier of Krishna in the heart, he is able to give you Krishna. Otherwise, no argument, no study of the Vedas, no following of any rishi, no show will actually grant you your eternal relationship with Krishna. We are fortunate in this time in which we live, in this Kali Yuga. We are fortunate because in the previous Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Krishna appeared. And that happens only once in the day of Brahma, millions and millions of years. And after the Dwapara Yuga in which Krishna appears, the next Kali Yuga, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears, which is Krishna himself, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nai Anya. The Sri Krishna Chaitanya is none other than a combination of Radha and Krishna. It is Krishna in the part of Radharani, displaying her emotions and their mood of love towards Krishna as a devotee. And by following his instructions, we can also understand how to devote our life to Krishna. It is a special event. It is an amnesty given to us by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is known as, therefore Rupa Goswami praised him as Mahavadanya Avatar, the incarnation of God, who is the Mahavadanya, the great, who gave the great gift. Nobody. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, you study Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's life, and you will see that there is no one who has given more mercy than he in all of history, in all of the creation. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us this amnesty, and therefore we are able, in Kali Yuga, to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Although it is impossible, he has given the greatest mercy, and the greatest mercy is the most sublime gift, which is the love between Radha and Krishna, and given to the most unqualified, us, residents of Kali Yuga. That is the most mercy. Because if there was something more than loving Radha and Krishna, there wouldn't be the greatest mercy. And if there was someone more fallen than us, Kali Yuga productions, then it wouldn't be the greatest mercy. So, Mahavadanya Avatar, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Nami. He is Krishna himself, and he is giving what no other incarnation has ever given before, which is love of God. Sri Krishna Chaitanya came with his associates, with the holy name, and he gave what no other incarnation has ever given. That is love of God. Thank you very much. So we have some comments from Vishnuvamsa, all glories to the assembled devotees. He says that most people forget the sixth sense, the mind, which has become the human's biggest enemy. Yes, our mind. And our expert leaders, they play with our mind, with the advertisement, with their movies, Hollywood, newspapers, internet. They're simply playing with our mind. So Krishna says, wherever the mind goes, you bring it back. Arjuna said, it is very difficult to control the mind. Chanchala hi mana Krishna. The mind is chanchala. So Krishna says, yes, he said, it's difficult to control the mind, but it is possible in two ways. Abhyasena tu konteya vairagyena chagriyate. By abhyas, by practice, and by detachment. And how do we practice cleaning, controlling the mind? By chanting Hare Krishna. Chanting Hare Krishna is the perfect way to control the mind, because it is the process through which Krishna is achieved. Says Vrishni Mandi Priya is also logged in. Hare Krishna Mata, nice to see you again. Vrishni Vansa says the Vedanta can only be Bhakti, so Bhakti Vedanta is correct. Yes. So, thank you very much for joining me. One announcement, on Tuesday I'm leaving for Thailand, and I will be reaching there on Wednesday sometime. I don't know if next Wednesday I'll be able to give class, but please keep looking at the Facebook page and I will see what I can do. Thank you very much, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.